Here at Illustrated Insights, it's our goal to help you foster positive mental health through a regular art practice. And we do that through giving you prompts and challenges and sometimes tutorials. But how do you actually go from a prompt or a challenge to a finished art journal page? So as we watch me create a page I did in my art journal recently with pencil, I thought I'd explain how I move from a prompt to a finished page. This video is just a brief overview. We'll be covering the process more in depth and going step by step in later videos. So of course the first thing that you're going to need is a prompt. It doesn't really matter where you get one from. It might be one that we've given you, this gratitude focus, or you might have found something interesting on Pinterest, or maybe there's just a word buzzing around in your brain kind of demanding your attention. Okay, so once you've got that prompt, that phrase or that word, here's 4 things that you can do to turn that word into a visual image. You'll want to make connections, generate ideas, then choose a composition, and then of course you're going to get started. Does that sound daunting? Don't be scared, let me explain those steps one at a time. So first of all, making connections. How do you turn a word into a visual image? For me, this doesn't always happen quickly. Sometimes I'm thinking about an idea or thinking about a prompt for days before I even put pen to paper. Quite often for me, the best times to make these connections is in the shower or just before bed. And all I do is I play a little association game in my head. So what sort of images does the word gratitude bring up for you? In this case, when I'm doing this page, I was thinking about how grateful I was for my garden. So of course, the first thing that comes up, the first visual image, is flowers. It's a pretty cliche association, and sometimes I'm happy to go with that, and at other times I'll dig a little deeper to see what other connections I can come up with, what other images are evoked by the word garden, for instance. And if you don't want to be representational with your image on the page, you might think a little bit more abstractly, like the word garden, what kind of lines, shapes or colours does it bring up? Does it suggest curly lines, straight lines, bright colours, soft colours? Then you might use those in your page rather than a representational image. On this page I decided to use some abstract flower and garden shapes, but I was more interested in the colours, so the reds, greens and pinks were what I was really looking for to represent a garden. Even then, once I had the idea of the images, the shapes and the colours, I still didn't put pen to paper until I had an idea. So the next thing that you need to do is to generate an idea. So in this stage I'm thinking about how I'm going to use the colours, the lines and the shapes together, what materials I'm going to use and what that's actually going to look like on the page. I haven't actually put pen to paper yet, I'm not at the composition stage yet, but I'm just thinking about the shapes and the images that I might use. I pictured them in my head and I kind of auditioned them in my brain as to what they might look like on the page. I might go through 1 or 2 or maybe many ideas before I settle on something that I really like. And quite often these ideas that I picture in my head are not what comes out on the page, but it's a really good starting point. It's something for me to build on. Quite often the artwork will evolve as I'm going. But by now I have enough of an idea about the shapes and the colours and how I want it to sit onto the page to actually make a composition. For beginning artists, it's a good idea to try out a sketch on a blank piece of paper, just something that you can throw away. And I do this sometimes even though I've been practicing art for a long time. But for this one I dove right in, because for this page I wasn't only aiming to illustrate my gratitude, it was also an exercise in letting go of results while still enjoying the process. There are lots of formal rules around art and composition. I'm not going to go into those today. But what I can tell you is that a good composition provides lots of interest while still giving the viewer's eye somewhere to rest. In my compositions, I do also tend to include a space to write because I like to journal on top of my artwork. That of course is personal choice. Now with your connections made, your ideas generated, and your composition all decided, it's time to get started. How do you do that? Sometimes people get really scared by a blank page. In other videos, I've shown you how I overcome that just by journaling right onto the page, which I then cover with layers. I didn't want that with this page. I wanted there to be a nice blank space in the middle. But I gave myself a foundation for this page by ruling some lines to make that diamond shape. Then once these lines were down, I felt a little bit more comfortable about making my first marks on the page. I also feel it's valuable to make sure that I've got time to get a little bit of a decent start. I'm not saying that I did this all in one sitting. In fact, this page took me a few days to complete. But if you're feeling rushed and time poor, that can actually create some extra anxiety about getting started. Give yourself enough time to breathe into it, relax, and just make some marks on the paper. Often once I get started, I settle right into that creative flow and I don't even notice time passing. I really hope watching this video has given you the motivation to try your own gratitude page. We'll be continuing our gratitude focus here until the end of September. So why don't you make a page in your own style, come over to our Facebook group and share it with us. As always, thanks for watching. Leave us a like and subscribe so you don't miss any further videos, and we'll see you next time.